Last week in Michigan politics, a visit from the Vice President of the United States, talking crime, the economy, and violence in the political realm. What he had to say as even Michigan has been grappling with the serious threat. Plus, a push to ban online pornography in our state, what one of the lawmakers supporting it told us. And after over a year of searching, one West Michigan county seems to have finally found themselves a new administrator. Who they chose, why they chose them, and what still has to happen to make it official. I'm Josh Alburtus, and this is your 13 on Your Side Rundown. And we begin with that visit from the Vice President of the United States. J.D. Vance was in Howell Wednesday on the east side of the state, bringing the administration's latest economic message to Michigan. We have details on what he said. Cheers filling the room as Vice President J.D. Vance arrived in Michigan.
Well, it's great to be here in the great state of Michigan.
Vance touring an automotive stamping facility in Livingston County.
I always loved coming to Michigan on the campaign trail.
Roughly 8 months after inauguration, Vance aiming to inspire confidence in the administration's economic direction. A direction heralded by some, but criticized by others for things like tariff impacts that contributed to at least one major West Michigan company announcing it would wind down operations.
I grew up in a community where the American dream seemed to be disappearing, where the jobs were getting shipped overseas, where the factories were closing down. Now that we are leaning in to great American-made automobiles, Hatch is doing better, the American auto worker is doing better.
As part of the message, Vance also heralding the passage of Washington's One Big Beautiful Bill over the summer that extended 2017 tax reforms and implemented changes like new work requirements for SNAP and Medicaid.
These working families tax cuts, they don't just cut your taxes, though they certainly do. They reward companies for building and investing in the United States of America.
But the view of their economic agenda so far hasn't been united. The president of one of the state's most prominent labor groups saying ahead of the visit, quote, Vance and Trump's agenda is the same as always. Gut unions, cut wages, and make their rich friends richer. But also laced into Vance's appearance was a message following the killing last week of conservative activist and Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk on the campus of a Utah university.
I think I speak for every person in this room, and I think I speak for a majority of our fellow Americans when I say we do not attack or commit violence against people because we disagree with their ideas. We debate ideas, and we're going to keep on debating them in honor of the great Charlie Kirk for as long as I have a microphone.
And amidst the continued presence of threats and violence in our politics, some say people need to lower the temperature. Now, the state attorney general wants state lawmakers to act. We spoke with Dana Nessel this week and heard what she says needs to be done.
These threats are not nothing. They undermine our democracy.
A tragic trend in violence and threats to American political figures. From conservative activist Charlie Kirk being shot and killed on the campus of a Utah university to multiple Michigan Democratic officials saying their homes had been targeted last week by bomb threats.
I'm having some of the most difficult conversations I've ever had with my children right now. But we can get through it together.
Now, Michigan's Attorney General speaking out on a high level of not just overall potential political violence.
We're seeing this significant escalation in the number of swatting incidences.
Swatting, when someone makes a false call meant to divert a large law enforcement presence to someone's home. In the best case, it costs money and law enforcement resources.
But worst case scenario, people are getting injured and even killed as a result. You know, when you have a SWAT force show up at somebody's house, who of course is not expecting that to happen and they have no idea what's going on, you never know what the reaction is going to be.
But even with the threat, penalties, she signaled, are not keeping up.
My concern is that the penalties are so minimal in Michigan that it's not a real deterrence for it. And in some of these cases, it's just a misdemeanor and a fine.
As threats and violence seem on the rise, and as legal language from higher powers, she said, changes over time.
We've had United States Supreme Court decisions that have changed the language of what is considered to be a true threat, and it does not match our state laws.
Nessel calling on state lawmakers to act and ensure justice can be served.
We need to make sure that we have the best laws possible to address this kind of political violence because the number of threats are escalating to an incredibly high number.
And a controversial exchange at an Office Depot in Portage this past week took off on social media. The video posted to X shows an employee refusing to print a poster for a vigil honoring Charlie Kirk. The customer identified himself as James Asher and posted on X saying an employee called him 30 minutes before the setup of the vigil and said they would not print it. The customer then went to the Office Depot location to ask about the poster.
We came in for an order earlier to print a poster for a vigil tonight.
Yeah, so
for somebody that passed.
Propaganda.
It's not
it's propaganda. I'm sorry, we don't print that here.
So they say they don't print political propaganda. No. So this is somebody that passed away a couple years ago.
That's political propaganda, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
So this is for a prayer tonight, for a prayer vigil.
It's still propaganda, unfortunately.
What makes it propaganda?
Because he's a political figure, and I don't have to. Yeah.
Michigan politicians and Office Depot called out the behavior on social media. The employee involved was fired. ABC's decision to pull Jimmy Kimmel's late night show after his comments surrounding the death of Charlie Kirk is sparking concerns about the Trump administration cracking down on free speech. In the wake of that suspension, several protesters gathered near 13 on Your Side. They voiced their concerns over that decision, as we are an ABC affiliate station. They held signs on the corner of Alpine Avenue and 3 Mile. The display was peaceful. If you have concerns about programming outside of our news broadcasts, you can call ABC's Audience Relations Department at 818-460-7477. At the state capitol, Governor Gretchen Whitmer has signed an executive directive to make it easier for people to get the COVID-19 vaccine in Michigan. It comes after U.S. Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. announced he would remove the COVID vaccine from the CDC's list of recommended vaccines. Kennedy's decision could make it more difficult for people to access the vaccine. The governor's executive directive orders Michigan agencies to identify and remove potential barriers and make sure the vaccines are covered by health insurance. She is also asking that safety and efficacy data be shared openly. And Governor Whitmer also delivered a speech Tuesday saying there are undeniable signs the state's economy is facing a downturn. The governor blamed federal tariffs, stubborn inflation, and growing personal debt. Michigan currently has one of the highest unemployment rates in the country at 5.3% as of earlier this week. And Whitmer says tariffs are having a big impact on two of the state's biggest industries, automotive and agriculture.
I'm going to continue to work alongside businesses and our congressional delegation and anyone who can try to help persuade decision makers in Washington, D.C. to adopt a tariff structure that reaffirms the USMCA, one that helps us compete, not holds us back, one that helps people save money, not cost them more.
Whitmer also spoke about the state budget, which needs to be approved by October 1st to prevent a shutdown. She encouraged state Democrats and Republicans to work together to compromise and pass the budget. Also at the Capitol, a bill to ban online pornography in Michigan is getting a lot of attention. The bill was just introduced in the House of Representatives late last week. We caught up with one of the sponsors who is now supporting the bill. That legislation would bar internet platforms and other entities from knowingly sharing porn to people in Michigan. People who do would face at least a felony of up to 20 years in prison or a $100,000 fine. We asked the rep why he's supporting it.
It's like a drug, I'm told, that you need to have more of the drug in order to be able to get the same effect. And if pornography becomes part of your lifestyle and it's something you do on a regular basis, it just keeps, you need to get more and more of it. And that's not good for the brain. I don't think that's good for human development.
It doesn't end there, it seems. The prohibited material under this bill would also include someone of one biological sex, quote, imitating, depicting, or representing himself or herself to be of the other biological sex, unquote. It explicitly carves out material protected by the First Amendment, but with broader privacy protections having been recognized over time by the legal system. Something like this could very likely face some legal challenges if law. Pavlo seemed to acknowledge that when we asked him. He told me he doesn't expect it to pass, given where he sees society and culture right now. But that's not stopping them from trying, of course. The bill is on to the House Judiciary Committee, and if they give it a hearing, they would decide whether to recommend it to the full House. Michigan House lawmakers this week voted to pass a bill that could criminalize many protests on highways in the state. It doesn't use the word protests in the new language, though those could certainly fall in the scope of the word it does use, assemblies. Those assemblies on highways would be criminalized if they block, obstruct, impede, or otherwise interfere with the normal flow of traffic. That's already prohibited under state law, but right now it's a civil infraction, not a crime. This would make doing so a misdemeanor with punishments of up to 93 days in jail, a $5,000 fine, or both. Notably, this only applies to highways. We spoke with a local activist, a county commissioner, and the lawmaker behind the bill to get their thoughts.
I think that it would have a chilling effect on not only protests, but it would also have a chilling effect over Americans, the community, period.
When I saw it and I saw the $5,000 fine, the 93 days in jail, I knew it was used not only to try to scare a young generation from using their First Amendment speech, but to go to their hardline supporters and say, hey, we're squashing something that really doesn't need to be squashed.
Personally, I like to see other points of view. We all should, and be open-minded. But when somebody's right ends, when another person's right begins, that's just not right.
Originally, the bill limited the misdemeanor charge to offending assemblies of 10 or more people. That number limit was later removed. U.S. and Michigan flags inside the state capitol were lowered to half-staff September 19th to honor a former state senator who recently passed away. Bruce Patterson was elected to the Michigan House of Representatives in 1999. He was then elected to the state Senate, representing the 7th District, serving 2 terms from 2003 to 2010. Governor Gretchen Whitmer encouraged Michigan residents, businesses, schools, and local governments to also display the flag at half-staff September 19th. And a federal law could lead to a possible ban on Chinese-made drones. If that happens, it could have an immediate impact on Michigan businesses, from law enforcement to farmers. 13 on Your Side's Micah Cho talked with a drone pilot who flies for farmers across Michigan about the issue and his concerns.
Pilots of Flying Acres Ag cover hundreds of acres of farmland every single day using these 2 drones behind me. They drop things like seeds for cover crops or even fertilizer. However, for owner Brian Hammis, he says a potential ban on DJI drones or Chinese manufactured drones in December is somewhat worrisome.
Here we're seeding today, so we're putting a cover crop in for this customer.
Brian Hammis and his crew of drone pilots put in long hours during the summertime. Hammis's company, Flying Acres Ag, works with farmers across the state to apply crop needs with their almost 300-pound drones.
We really, really enjoy what we do. We love being able to help customers. We love being out in the fields.
However, the drone industry, according to Hammis, may face a potential ban on Chinese manufactured drones like DJI, the same one Flying Acres Ag uses.
With that, they would no longer be able to achieve new FCC licenses. So they would not be able to bring new products into the country.
According to a law passed last year, the federal government has until December 23rd of this year to do a risk assessment of DJI drones. If not, new drones, according to a spokesperson from DJI, would be removed from the U.S. market. The spokesperson went on to say, in part, DJI remains committed to the U.S. market and continues to urge policymakers and relevant agencies through formal letters, private meetings, and publicly to conduct a risk assessment that is transparent, grounded in evidence, and not rushed. While Hammis says he isn't opposed to American-made drones, the U.S. industry needs to catch up.
We want an American agriculture drone. Absolutely. We just are not there right now for technology.
And while the future is uncertain, he says he remains hopeful.
A foreseeable future, we're going to continue to sell them, continue to use them, and look forward to the next generation.
And Hamma says that any software or accessories that DJI comes out with, even if this ban does come into place, he says they're not worried about that as they are still expecting to receive those products. For now, in Montcalm County, I'm Micah Cho for 13 on your side.
After a brief pause earlier this year, Michigan's largest health system has now announced they're discontinuing their gender-affirming care for minors. Coming up, why they are changing course and what's next. A federal court order blocked Medicaid recipients from using their insurance at Planned Parenthood's health centers nationwide, including here in Michigan. The order comes amid a lawsuit to stop the Trump administration from pausing federal funding to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood of Michigan said it will cover the costs of already scheduled appointments for Medicaid patients through September 22nd. Patients with Medicaid will need to pay out of pocket for any new appointments or appointments scheduled after the 22nd. Planned Parenthood of Michigan says this order will impact about 14,000 patients statewide. The organization's acceptance of Medicaid could still change as their legal battle with the Trump administration continues. Corewell Health, a major healthcare provider here in our state, will discontinue gender-affirming care for transgender minors. We're told Corewell Health will no longer prescribe puberty blockers or hormone therapy for gender affirmation. A spokesperson for Corewell told us they made the decision to protect providers and patients. In a statement, Attorney General Dana Nessel called the decision, quote, deeply disappointing, and said it fails to adequately consider the long-term consequences to the health, safety, and well-being of patients. Nessel added that gender-affirming care remains legal under Michigan law. Last month, the Michigan House of Representatives passed a state budget proposal that, if signed into law, would make cuts to funding for centers for independent living. 13 on your side's Aaron Sullivan spoke with local organizations that say this decision could threaten services catering to those living with disabilities.
Cuts to Michigan's funding for centers of independent living have local disability advocates growing concerned.
With a lot of the risk of funding cuts right now, I think that it would just add more barriers to their entry into whatever they want to get into.
These programs allow young adults living with disabilities to learn more about life skills and prepare them for entering the workforce. One program offered by the Disability Advocates of Kent County is at risk.
Empower You is a program for young adults ages 18 to 26 who are working to improve their life skills, transition skills, employability skills.
Establishing routines, learning public transportation to get to work, and going over workplace etiquette are just some of the few skills that students learn here.
So we focus a lot on that employability piece, and it's a tricky piece. There's so many components. I think a lot of people think, oh, you get a job and then you just go there. But you don't have your driver's license, so you have to learn the bus system. The bus system is complicated. Figuring that all out is complicated. So you have to learn how the bus. You have to learn how to interview and ask for a job. You have to learn how to fill out a job application. This is there are layers and layers and layers to figure out just how to arrive at your job.
Empower You also helps students find employment. Alexis, a 22-year-old student at Empower You, works 3 jobs.
I like it. It makes me feel happy. It helps me get a lot of job sites.
Tell me about some of those job sites.
Davenport, I do an Old Navy on Monday, Davenport on Tuesday, Reston Market Wednesday, and Thursday I do Myers.
And 23-year-old Daniel works at Walgreens, and he says the program has given him the confidence to do his job properly.
Everybody, this building, I love it because I can do it for a job because I love it.
But without these programs, advocates say,
It's really limiting not only their opportunities, but the opportunities of these businesses and these community partners that we work with, and being able to know that we're still going to be able to make those connections and get them into a place where they're going to feel fulfilled, and that the businesses were also going to be, super happy that they're able to make that connection and get these young adults in there.
Aaron Sullivan, 13 on your side.
Some families are asking the FDA to rethink their approach regarding rare disease treatment approval. For them, it's not just medicine, it's hope for more birthdays and milestones. 13 on your side's Alexis Dumershine has the story.
Parents of children with rare diseases are waiting and hoping for access to treatments that could change everything. For them, it's hope.
For Lily and Piper, every day counts. Their rare disorder means time lost could never be recovered.
So Lily and Piper both have a metabolic genetic disorder called pyruvate dehydrogenase complex deficiency, PDCD.
A treatment exists, it's called DCA, and is given under hospital supervision. The girls' family says it's proven safe, yet FDA approval delays leave them in limbo.
Because it's technically safe, but we're in this middle ground of now what do we do?
Right now, the FDA hasn't approved the drug because while it's been proven safe, the trial data didn't show enough benefit. The families want the FDA to consider the human impact, not just numbers in trials.
You know, we want the FDA to sit down with us, sit down with the PDCD patient community and hear our stories.
For families, approval of the drug isn't just medicine. It's hope for more birthdays, more milestones, and more moments together.
It's beneficial even a tiny bit. That is going to improve her quality of life and the length of her life potentially. So we're willing to take that risk, especially if there really isn't a risk if the FDA has said that it's safe.
They say raising awareness could be the key to change and to saving lives.
Sit down and put a face to it and humanize it, because at the end of the day, like, that's what it is. It's kids' lives, and they deserve a chance.
For these parents, advocacy is more than paperwork. It's about fighting for the lives of their children.
These families just want the FDA to see their children as more than numbers and give them a chance at more milestones. In the newsroom, Alexis Dumershine, 13 on your side.
Many people in one West Michigan community pushing back against a proposed battery storage facility at a township meeting. What the community is saying, that's next. Ottawa County has selected a new administrator. The position has been open since John Gibbs was fired in February of last year. 13 on your side's Deja Barrett was there when the Ottawa County Commission voted late last week.
This week, the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners actually met twice to consider 5 candidates. And this morning, they selected former Ottawa County Deputy Administrator Patrick Waterman to fill the role as the county's administrator. Friday morning, public comment was made by several county residents and employees in the boardroom of the Fillmore complex. County commissioners also took the floor separately, expressing their thoughts and points of view of their candidate of choice. Paper ballots were then passed out and collected, Waterman securing the majority with 7 votes, and Muskegon County Deputy Administrator Matthew Farrar with 4. Chairman John Teeple says the board is diverse and having difference of opinion is something that's expected and part of the process. He had this to say in response to the many comments made regarding the direction of the county after Friday's vote.
He was in a situation, a no-win situation. And it wasn't his fault. Well, the majority of the board today said it wasn't your fault. And you were hired originally for a reason, because of your competence and skills and demeanor, and we know you can keep doing it. So we're taking that equation out of the picture and putting him back where he was originally and saying, let's get at it. And that's what's going to happen.
Patrick Waterman currently serves as Deputy City Manager for the City of Wyoming. Chairman Teeple says the terms of Waterman's contract will be finalized in the coming weeks, and a start date will be announced once those terms are complete. In the meantime, former Sheriff Gary Rozema will continue his duties as interim county administrator. In West Olive, Deja Barrett, 13 on your side.
Dozens of Blendon Township residents were still furious this week about a proposed battery storage facility that would be built in the area. The township's board on Monday giving a presentation on what's being proposed, with some residents making it clear they don't like the plan. 13 on your side's Nick Nelson was there all night.
Yeah, residents took their concerns directly to Blendon Township officials, and they got to hear more about the proposed battery facility. Now, if approved, the Key Capture Energy battery facility would be able to store energy during periods of low demand and put it back into the power grid. Dozens of Blendon Township residents showed up to the meeting opposed to the proposed plant that would need to be approved by the township's planning commission. Residents say they hope elected members of the board can use their influence to make sure the plan isn't approved.
5 months ago, my grandfather passed away. He passed 2 weeks before the KCE mailing came in the mail to his house. He never saw that mailing, and if he would have, it would have devastated him. If this goes through, the opportunity for his legacy to go on will be shattered. The fourth generation will not have the opportunity that my brother has. My brother's opportunity is being taken away.
You don't have the yes or no say, but you probably have the ear of the Planning Commission more than the people in this room. Just go home and think about why you were elected and if this really does benefit this community.
Now, there's been controversy because Planning Commissioner Jordan Decker is the one who owns the land where Key Capture would put the plant. Many residents called for his removal from the board. However, Chris Lismayer, Senior Manager of Public Affairs for Key Capture, says Decker has committed to abstaining from voting on the application.
Commissioner Decker has abstained from any vote that's dealt with any battery ordinances, and he will be abstaining from the vote that comes forward.
Now, the township and Key Capture is holding open office hours from 2 to 8 p.m. Tuesday to address any additional questions residents may have. Nick Nelson, 13 on your side.
The plan to restart the Palisades nuclear plant is moving forward after owner Holtec received its 6th loan payment. The release of nearly $1.56 million brings total funding to just under a third of the $1.52 billion promised in September of last year. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission signed off on an environmental review in May. Federal supervision will continue to make Palisades the first decommissioned power plant to resume operations in the United States. Before 2020, businesses at Chinook Pier in Grand Haven were busy. That's before they had to be demolished because of mold. This past week, the City Council approved a new development plan to revitalize the area. 13 on your side's Nick Nelson was also in Grand Haven with the reaction of the community.
I knew I was on the right street, and I walked back all the way to the lighthouse, came all the way back, and I thought, this is the place. And then I saw the sign, and I said, something's gone here.
When her boys were little, Okemos resident Tracy Moreno would take them to an ice cream shop at Chinook Pier in Grand Haven. She was disappointed Tuesday to find out the ice cream shop and several other businesses were no longer there, after the buildings were torn down 5 years ago due to mold. That's going to change soon, however, after the City Council on Monday approved a lease for a new development on the pier.
It's definitely something that the community enjoys throughout the summer, so we're trying to find ways to incorporate the things that the community loves best, and we certainly hope this becomes a destination, a popular destination for the community and for visitors who are coming to Grand Haven.
We told Moreno about the business revitalization. She says she's happy to see it return and is hopeful that family tradition will continue.
As a matter of fact, one of my boys grew up and now is moving to Grand Haven. And so when I just got off the phone with him and we were FaceTiming, and he says, oh my gosh, those shops are gone. So he remembers from a long time ago that he remembered those shops.
The lease was approved unanimously by the council, with the developer Copper Rock Construction and Development thanking the city for its cooperation.
I'd like to thank the city for giving us an opportunity to proceed on this very unique and very special piece of property. I think we've been very successful in doing on a collaborative public and private basis. We appreciate your consideration. We're eager to get started with next steps on the project.
Assistant City Manager Dana Culloware says the city and developer are aiming to break ground next spring. And after the break, your tax dollars at work, with some major renovation projects around Grand Rapids now complete. What's now open to the public and how they were funded. The Grand Rogue Park in Plainfield Township is back open following a year of renovations supported by government funding. The grand reopening ceremony was held September 16th at the park on West River Drive. It closed last September as part of the township's Parks Master Plan. The new features include a modern playground, a fishing dock, a pavilion, and a canoe launch. The park originally opened in 2020. The 1.75 million renovation project was funded by the township and 2 Michigan Natural Resources grants. And Grand Rapids Public Schools is celebrating a more than $5 million renovation project with a ribbon cutting this past week. GRPS administration and state lawmakers joined the public for the ceremony to officially open the historic Houseman Field. The field has been the home for GRPS athletics for more than a century. The upgrades, which leaders say were completed on time and under budget, include new playing turf and running track, expanded parking, new field lighting, upgrades to the locker rooms, and some needed overall repairs. The funding for the renovations comes from a bond issue passed by voters in 2023. The same bond issue also funded a $1.5 million renovation of Briggs Field on the northeast side of the city. The first game at the renovated stadium is set for Friday. And that's the rundown for your week in Michigan politics. Be sure to keep up with all the top political stories of the day, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com.